Is this live? Is this live? I think it is. Let's see. I just need to make sure it is live. Receiving your content. Starting. We are live. So I'm Sam. As you guys know, I'll be reporting more with Jordan. I'll be reporting Mondays and Wednesdays. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry about that. My dryer was going and I did not want that in the background. So, things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to do an update on Cyntoia Brown. It's actually a very, very sad story. This poor girl, she was a victim of sex trafficking. She defended herself, and now she's having to deal with courts. And it's been more than 10 years that she's had to deal with this, and she still hasn't any sort of justice. As a matter of fact, they're trying to send her to jail, which is such bullshit. There is an update on gun controls. On the gun control end, the U.S. did some pretty cool stuff, so we'll see how that looks like. And then also, the GOP, well, one GOP congressman, is blocking a bill to help Native women. As I've kind of been talking about in my other videos, there is an epidemic of missing Indigenous women and abused Indigenous women. And there is a bill in Congress to help this situation out, and of course there is some person who doesn't think that women should have any sort of rights, that they should be abused, and that's okay. So we're going to jump right into it. Cyntoia Brown, sentenced at 16, must serve 51 years before she is eligible for release. I guess I should show you the article. And boop. And there we go. Cyntoia Brown, sentenced at 16, must serve 51 years before she is eligible for release. Brown, a victim of sex trafficking, claims she acted in self-defense when she killed a man who had solicited her for sex. So claims this is something that corporate media, journalists, they have to do to avoid getting sued. That's just the semantics, legal part of it, and it really sucks that they have to do that. Cyntonia Brown was only 16 when she was sentenced to life in prison, and the Tennessee Supreme Court ruled this past week that she would have to serve 51 years before she could be eligible for release. Brown was convicted of murder and robbery for killing 43-year-old Johnny Mitchell Allen in 2004 after he solicited her for sex. So I found this really awesome timeline to show you how long this girl has been dealing with all this. So August 2004, real estate agent Johnny is found naked with a gunshot wound to the back of his head. Brown, 16, told police he picked her up at a Sonic drive-in. Brown said she was a teen prostitute and shot Allen because she thought he was reaching for a gun under his bed. August 2006, a jury convicts Brown of first-degree murder and robbery. Now, something I want to talk about real quick. Cyntoia Brown is a black teenage girl. At this point in time, she's in her early 20s. But I want to make this clear because this is another instance where this would not have happened to a white girl. Right? I kind of think of the movie Taken, like when I heard about this case this week. I didn't know about this back in 2004 or any point in between. This week was the first time I had ever learned about it. But as soon as I learned about it, I thought of like the movie Taken, right? Where it's this young girl who was taken into teen prostitution, and her dad goes and saves the day by saving her, right? Well, in this case, the black girl defends herself, and instead of getting some sort of justice, she is being sent to jail. Like, they want to send her to jail. Now, why do I bring up the movie Taken? Because in this movie Taken, where a young white girl is taken into, sex trafficking, prostitution, there's an idolization of her dad saving her and going after the bad guy, right? In this case, in a real life case, this black girl is a sex trafficking victim, and she takes matters into her own hands, and she is not getting justice. So how we see things and then how things are actually implemented are completely different, and it's wrong. So anyway, I wanted to go back and tell you guys that because we're going to go through. So August 2006, so at this point she's 16. In 2006, do the math, convicts Brown of first-degree murder and robbery. Brown is sentenced to life with the possibility of parole. State officials said the law dictated that she serve at least 51 years before becoming eligible for release. Prosecutors pushed for more time because of aggravated robbery and other factors in the crime. 2011, there's a PBS documentary. Airs nationally, bringing new attention to Brown's case. 2012, U.S. Supreme Court rules that mandatory life without parole sentences for juveniles violate Eighth Amendment prohibitions against cruel and unusual punishment. November 2012. Defense attorneys push for a new trial and introduce new evidence about Brown suffering fetal alcohol syndrome. That matters. Like, she was a victim of sex trafficking. Anyway, November 2017, musician Rihanna again brings up attention to Brown's case with the Free Cyntoia Brown Instagram post. May 2018, here we go into this year. We've been dealing with this since 2004. The Board of Parole gives Governor Bill Haslam a split recommendation on Brown's application for clemency. 2 members vote to recommend that the governor grant clemency, allowing for her release from prison. The split recommendations are not binding. The governor can handle the case however he chooses. And now they're focusing on clemency, right? So fast forward to December 2018. The Tennessee Supreme Court issues a unanimous decision that says defendants convicted of first-degree murder on or after July 1st, 1995 and sentenced to life in prison become eligible for release after serving a minimum of 51 years in prison. Their answer will inform deliberations at the 6th Court Circuit of Appeals. Haslam says his team is still considering Brown's clemency petition. He expects to announce a decision before leaving his office in January. So, a sex trafficking victim, who at 16 was a victim of sex trafficking, defends herself and has been dealing with this for over 10 years. Way over 10 years. So it's not enough that she was abused as a child. It's not enough that she was a sex trafficking victim. But on top of defending herself, our justice system decides to imprison her. Would this be happening if she were white? If she was a white teenage girl, a white teenage sex trafficking victim who defended herself? There would be an uproar. Uproar. Like, insane. It'd be so much more mainstream than like a simple PBS documentary. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on that because, again, I saw this week and I was like, oh, this is a new case. This is so wrong. But then I did, research, and it's not a new case. This woman now has been dealing with this since she was 16 in 2004. So any sort of emotional closures or things that she might need to do emotionally to grow as a person is completely paused, because she's having to deal with all this. So there's that. I'm going to go over to the YouTube chat to see if everybody's alive, see if anybody's there. Hi! Yay! Thank you for the super chat, Jean. I appreciate it. People are power, and this is how the justice system looks after our children. The world has gone mad. I want to be specific. It's not just looking over our children. This is how the justice system looks over Black children. Because, like I said, if this was a white teenager, how would this be different? It would certainly be a lot different. And then, I mean, it's not just Black, but it's also like Black woman sex trafficking victim. Think of, all of the 17-year-old white male rapists who have gotten like a 3-month slap on the wrist, like Brock Turner, right? They not only raped but almost killed their victims, and they barely got 3 months. So there's a lot of important juxtaposition going on. And we have to remember, like, it's not just how the justice system looks over our children, it's how we fail Black children. So there's my rant on that. And I just thought it was important that you guys knew that Cyntoia Brown has been dealing with this for a lot longer than just this week. Since 2004. Dear goodness, she's drinking age. She's my age now. Okay. So, up next, there has been a lot of debate with gun control stuff, right? We have a lot of mass shootings that are continually normalized. Here recently, there's been, is it like 5 mass shootings? Just in the last week alone, 5 or 6 in the last week alone, and it's barely been reported on. It's a blip in the news cycle, and then it's gone. But there has been some progress. Very little, but some progress. I found this on BBC, of course. I did not see this pop up in our United States mainstream media, so I'm going to show you this. U.S. bans bump stock gun device used in mass shootings. The Trump administration has banned the use of bump stocks, devices that let rifles fire like machine guns, after promising to do so earlier this year. The final date to destroy or turn in the devices is March 21st, said White House press secretary. The push to ban bump stocks followed deadly mass shootings in Las Vegas and Parkland. Pro-gun advocates have said they are prepared to fight the rule in court. Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker signed the new regulation on Tuesday, and it is expected to be published in the Federal Register on Friday. Bump stocks, or slide-fire adapters, allow semi-automatic rifles to fire at a high rate, similar to a machine gun, but can be obtained without the extensive background checks required of purchasing automatic weapons. So let's automatic weapons you can only buy with like background checks, supposedly, right? Not like there's a black market for that or anything. But these bump stocks allow a person to go buy a rifle without extensive background checks, and then they put this bump stock on the rifle so it fires like an automatic weapon. So this is good news. This is good news. This is something that's overlooked. There is some progress this is very little progress, but still it's something. Of course, they are fighting it already. The NRA is pissed off about it, as you saw. Pro-gun advocates are pissed off about it. They even actually, they're going to court for this. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of Republicans watching this and a lot of Second Amendment advocates. Now, I gotta tell you something. I'm from Texas. I grew up in, well, half of my childhood was like Louisiana. I did a lot of hunting. I understand guns, okay? Guns for going hunting, right? These things are fine. But the Second Amendment was made a very, very long time ago. Like, so long ago that you had to, like, put in your own bullets, do the thing, and then shoot, right? It wasn't bullet, 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 bullet. It was one bullet per shot. The Second Amendment needs to be updated for the technology we have now. Back when they wrote the Second Amendment, they did not have bump stocks. They did not have these automatic weapons. I understand that if you're a farmer or someone who likes to hunt, you should have the right to have a gun. Or if you're a single woman living on your own, you should have a handgun, right? I get these things. But what I'm saying is the Second Amendment needs to be updated to include this stuff. You should, like, no one should be able to go buy a rifle without a background check and then be like, oh, well, I'm just going to get this bump stock and it's going to be automatic. I'm going to completely bypass the automatic weapon thing. That's, come on. At one point, will common sense, like, just take over? Right. Ugh. Okay, well, we're going to go back to the article because there's more on this. Let's see. Las Vegas gunman Stephen Paddock used a bump stock to fire rapidly into the crowd, killing 58 last year. Following the Vegas shooting, lawmakers began discussing a ban on the devices. Bump stocks were not used in the Parkland attack, but it did reignite the gun control debate. So let's see. Shortly after Trump directed the Department of Justice to look into changing regulations so that bump stocks would be classified as machine guns, which are legal to possess in most cases. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives had previously ruled that bump stocks did not qualify as machine guns and thus would not be regulated. So the Gun Owners of America lobby issued a statement on Tuesday saying they have prepared a lawsuit against the ATF and the Justice Department on behalf of the 500,000 bump stock owners forced to part with their valuable property. Agencies are not free to rewrite laws under the guise of interpretation of a statute, especially where the law's meaning is clear, said Eric Pratt, Exec Director of Gun Owners of America. The National Rifle Association, which had called for a review of bump stock devices after the Las Vegas shooting, said they were disappointed with the new ban. Okay, so they called for a review of bump stock devices after Vegas, and now they backpedaled and said no, they're disappointed with the ban. How typical. The NRA spokesperson said the government should offer amnesty to current owners. So that's that. And so what are bump stocks? Relatively difficult for civilians to buy new, fully automatic weapons, which reload automatically and fire continuously as long as the trigger is depressed. Bump stocks harness a rifle's recoil. They replace the weapon's stock, which is held against the shoulder, and allow the rest of the rifle to slide back and forward with every shot despite having no mechanical parts or springs. The motion makes the trigger collide with or bump the shooter's finger as long as they apply pressure with the non-shooting hand and rearward pressure with the shooting hand. So that's the latest update on basic gun control in the United States, or the United Corporations of America, because let's face it, we are corporate and quite fascist as fuck. Actually, last night I was talking to some of my childhood friends about how fascist we are as a country, and most people think we're at like fascist level 6, but we're actually fascist level 8, and there's about 10 levels of fascism. And I think I'm going to do a live video on that, not tonight, because I already have some stuff laid out for y'all, but we're a lot fascist than we think we are, and we have been for a long time. So I'm going to take a quick drink of water because I'm thirsty. While that's happening, I'm going to go over to the YouTube and see what y'all are doing. Let's see. Bump stocks are junk. No one uses them. Okay, if bump stocks are junk, why did the Las Vegas shooter use a bump stock to kill 58 people? Okay, explain that to me. Why did the shooter use a bump stock to kill 58 people in the Las Vegas shooting? Okay, thank you. The Second Amendment was not for duck hunting or sports. No, it wasn't. It was meant to take over a tyrannical government. I get that. But it was back when you put in a bullet, put in the gunpowder, and shoot. Not when you had access to things like bump stocks where you could kill 58 people at a time. Right. So we have to remember this. Hey, Mr. Black. No, it's not over. Jordan was live, but then I went live, and now I'm here, and we're about to move on to some indigenous issues, because, of course, there is a GOP person who is blocking a bill to help indigenous women, which is crazy. So that's all I got for that. Real quick, I don't know if you guys already know, you should know. Status Quo has now has like a become a member button. So if you go on statusquo.com, there's a become a member thing, and you can become a member for really super cheap and get extra content, exclusive content, and it just helps get Jordan, Jen, Ty back into the field to do on-the-ground reporting. And eventually the long-term plan is to have people like me reporting out in the field across the country, and we really like your help with that. We do not want to talk with corporate advertisers. We do not want to deal with any of corporate media and the corporate establishment. We really want this to be something that you help us with, so that way we are responsive to you, the people, and we just want to report for you, and we don't want to have any ties to any sort of corporation that wants to hurt you. That's not what we're about. If you don't want to become a member of Status Quo, we do have our GoFundMe. That's, you know, $1. That's totally cool. And there's also our Super Chat, which also $1. And if you can't do any of that, that is totally fine. You sharing our content helps so much. You commenting in our Super Chat and our chats is wonderful too. I love having these conversations with you. Someone asked me what happened to my glasses. I'm currently wearing contacts. After I'm done here, I'm going to a Christmas party. And hopefully soon I'll be getting LASIK, because I just don't really like my glasses. I mean, I like my glasses, but I can't see. I'm very blind. My husband likes to make fun of me because even wearing my glasses, I can't see. It's a problem. So, but onward. Next, we're talking indigenous rights. Boop. Excuse the trippiness. A single GOP congressman is blocking a bill to help abused Native women. A bill to combat the appallingly high rates of missing and murdered Native women has stalled the House despite sailing through the Senate because a single Republican congressman is mysteriously holding it up. Rep. Bob Goodlatte, a Republican from Virginia, is blocking the bill called Savannah's Act, aimed at helping the federal government respond to the grim reality that 84% of Native women experience violence in their lifetime. They are murdered at 10 times the national average. The bill would require the Department of Justice to train law enforcement agencies to record tribal enrollment information in crime information databases. It would also require the Attorney General to seek recommendations from tribes to improve access to local, state, and federal crime information databases. And it would create locally developed guidelines for responding to cases of missing and murdered Native women. The Senate passed it last week, and it was expected to easily pass the House this week on the suspension calendar. But Goodlatte, or Goodlatte, whatever his name is, who chairs the House Judiciary Committee, has indicated he has concerns with the bill, so it stopped moving. With the Congress set to adjourn for the year as soon as Friday, the bill is on the verge of expiring without action. If it did, that would mean Congress would have to start all over again next year, sending the measure through committee hearings and votes in both chambers. It's not clear why Goodlatte is holding it up. Now I'm saying Goodlatte just to be sarcastic, because this is wrong. We have been working on this bill in order to advance it, including working with DOJ and stakeholders. So here he is, just blocking the bill, just doing that. So this bill would help, as you just saw and read, and I read to you, would help Indigenous women get justice for the shit that happens to them, which is a lot of shit. And this Goodlatte, I'm going to call him Goodlatte, is blocking this bill because I'm assuming he's a racist. That's my assumption, because as we saw in the article, he's not providing a clear reason why. Right, so usually people who head the committee are like, I'm not going to schedule this bill to vote because of X, Y, and Z. He hasn't even provided that. He hasn't had the decency to do that. And there are other senators and congresspeople putting pressure on him, but the fact is that's not enough. And this is one of those stories that isn't going to get reported in the mainstream. So how do people know to contact their reps to get this sort of bills out there and done? They don't. So that's why I'm here talking about it. I do have some stuff I wanted to show you about missing Indigenous women. Here is a pretty little chart thing. 5,712, the number of known incidences of missing and murdered Native American and Alaska Native women of 2016. Only 116 cases were logged into the DOJ database. 67%, the number of cases between 2005 and 2009 that U.S. attorneys declined to prosecute of Native community matters involving sexual abuse. On some reservations, the number of sexual violence against Native women committed by non-natives. 96%. Here are the sources. This is a good page to follow. Digital smoke signals, right? Just press the like button. I'm going to press it. I follow them through another page, but I do go onto their website a lot. It is important to have, news diversity, right? You can't just rely on me. You can't just rely on Jordan. You also have to like other pages for specific issues, and Digital Smoke Signals is a really good place to read about Indigenous issues. So this Goodlatte guy, as you saw, the bill is trying to facilitate getting these issues into the DOJ database, among other streamlining things. And Good Latte is blocking that. Another stat I want to show you. So here is here's a chart that the HuffPost was talking about. They had this in there. So here is this. So you see the violence against men. You see how much it is. Violence against women. See how much it is, like, in relative to, like, non-Hispanic white, relative risk. So there's women. And here's the men chart. It is important to realize that when we talk about Indigenous women, we're also talking about Indigenous men. There is a lot of violence against the Indigenous group in general, and this Savannah's Act would help that, but Good Latte is blocking it. So I would encourage you to tell people about this and get more pressure on this, because it looks like by this Friday, if this doesn't go through, they're going to have to start all over again. All over again. So there we go on that. I am going to go over to the YouTube to see what you guys are up to. The simulation. Boop. Okay. I agree, Sam. If the Founding Fathers were alive now, they'd outright ban guns. These guns are a lot more sophisticated than the guns they had back then. Like, honestly. Honestly. Okay, so that's all I've really seen here. I am going to wrap up. You guys have a good evening. And don't forget to drop $1 or $2 in the GoFundMe. Become a member if you can. And if you can't do anything monetarily, you can always subscribe to our email list to get updates. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. Do the Facebook thing where you can see us first in your algorithm. And that's all I got. So you guys have a good night. Bye.